A Monday night after another day of record or near record highs in the 80s. We got one more of those to get through, and then we may actually see some rain Tuesday night, Wednesday. That's going to be followed by much cooler air, so we're going to be swinging the pendulum in the other direction, and there's going to be a coastal storm developing off the southeast coast late this week. We'll talk about that because there's still a lot of uncertainty with that, and much more. And Joe Rayo is back. No surprise, because I said he would be. Tonight, right here on the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast. And you can support the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast. Do your Amazon shopping. Use our referral link that's on the descriptor to this podcast. All you do is just use the link to get you to Amazon. Whatever you buy, you buy. Amazon throws us a little coin for sending you there. And the result is that you can watch the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast live commercial free. So we thank those of you who, Tom Contino, stop putting it in quotes that he was out sick. Okay. And you're interrupting my commercial. Anyway, we thank those of you who have supported us by shopping on Amazon. And tonight, the Tempest by Weatherflow headlines the link at the top of the chat board. Get the new Tempest weather station and the weather system and join the fastest growing observing weather network on the planet. The link, as I said, on the top of the chat board, also on the descriptor to this podcast. And there's a coupon code, Joe Rayo.
Yes, and that coupon code is Joe Rayo called out sick yesterday.
Right. Yes.
And, no. The coupon code is Autumn 2025.
Yes. And if you use it, you will get 10% off. So
that
there
was
you
my
go.
line, wasn't it?
It was, but you used too many words.
Oh, okay.
At the end of the show, Joe and I count our words. So,
And more than a few times, Mr. Contino is saying that I, quote, called out, quote, sick
nobody
yesterday.
calls out sick. It is so ridiculous.
I mean, like, is it his business what I do understand? I will say this, Mr. Contino. It had something to do with a death in the family. Now, how do you feel about that?
See, and I was kinder, Joe. I said you were out because you had some family issues to deal with.
Correct.
Because that's all anybody needs to know. All right.
Except for Contino. Contino needs to dredge everything up, and he would be perfect for like being on the National Enquirer or
either that or when he was in school, he was the hall monitor and he would report everybody that was in the hallway that wasn't supposed to be there.
Absolutely. He'd be perfect for the job.
So another day of 80s for you. That's three in a row, and you got one more coming. Yeah,
and we've got ourselves a weather front that's going to put an end to the heat for a little while, but also may bring us. It's not going to really be all that much. It certainly is not going to be a drought buster, but it is going to be any little bit helps. But where I was for a while last week, I was up in Vermont. Mrs. Rayo and I spent some time with some friends, and where I was in a part of Vermont, they are now under extreme drought, and you could see it. You could see it. I mean, like there's very little color in the trees in southern Vermont, mainly, I guess, due to the fact that it's been so very, very dry in recent days, recent weeks, maybe even recent months. So the colors are muted this year, I guess, in prime because of the drought situation. But we could use any shower or any kind of precipitation event that we get here, and that will be again with this approaching front late Tuesday night into the early part of Wednesday, and then we go back to cooler weather for the latter part of the week.
Right, and then the weekend we're going to get another. This will be the third system, or the third system in the last like three and a half weeks. That's going to form in that zone off the southeast coast or off the Florida east coast, and my view on this is the fact that this sort of stuff, when it happens and it happens in succession, you get 3 in a row or 4 in a row of these sorts of things. While they don't all do track the same way, they do tend to rhyme. Okay, in terms of how they behave. If you remember, Joe, about 2.5, 3 weeks ago, we had that little low that was off the North Carolina coast
Right.
that they had 50 and 60-mile-an-hour winds in eastern North Carolina up to about the Delmarva coast, and then nothing further north. I mean, the rain never got up anywhere close. The wind never got anywhere close. Then we had Imelda last week, which was supposed to go straight up into South Carolina and then turn west into the southern Appalachians, and that wound up doing exactly the opposite. And now you have this third thing, and we're seeing the same situation where the models are struggling, trying to figure out what this is going to do. And you had a whole sequence of runs where most of the models were trying to give this idea that this low was going to come up the East Coast just offshore New Jersey and just south of Long Island. And if you looked at the day runs, the day run of the GFS or the runs, some of the European run from the overnight, I mean, you would be sitting here forecasting 50 to 60-mile-an-hour winds for the New Jersey shore and the south shore of Long Island. And now I notice, that today, of course, the European now is kind of trapping it off the southeast coast and just leaving it there. And the GFS at 18Z today is not bringing it all the way up. It only brings it about halfway up before it just starts to weaken and go away. So I'm not sold on any idea that this thing is going to come roaring up the seaboard. If I were, if I'm going to put a bet down, I'm right now, I would say the odds are favorable that something that only gets so far north and then just starts to meander around, and you're sitting here waiting for a good soaking rain and anticipating that there's going to be strong winds and some higher than normal tides. I'm just not sure that that's going to be the case. I think it may just follow the trend of the last two.
Well, the GFS has been most aggressive in recent runs, trying to bring that system right up into our area with winds and significant, if not maybe in one case, soaking rains. But as you point out, Joe, the European kind of brings it up as far as the mid-Atlantic coast and then kind of lets it sit there for a while it actually diminishes
Right.
in strength and intensity. So it's still, about 6, 7 days away. We'll see what
It
happens.
actually it actually dragged the surface low southwestward down to along the South Carolina coast to Savannah before it completely falls apart. So yeah,
Yeah.
I mean we've got was looking at the ensembles too, and they're all over the place. So probably got at least another couple of days to just sort of square this away. But I'm just going to say that if it's going to rhyme like the other two, I would not be surprised. Oh, and by the way, since you were up in Vermont and you were talking about the drought conditions, I'm just wondering, did you happen to notice whether they cut the if they cut the water supply off to Stewart's? You know
I
what you know what I'm talking about, Stewart's.
Well, I can tell you that we were at one particular place. We did, our friends who, were the hosts for us on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. They took us around, and there was one particular location where water was flowing. I don't know if you want to call it a river or a brook, but the level was way, way down as opposed to where it should have been. So I'm sure, there are all kinds of problems going on up in New England, especially in central New England, where the dry weather has been particularly significant. So they could use the water. We could all use the water.
I mentioned Stewart's because to me, Stewart's, if you haven't been up into up into New England and upstate New York, Stewart's are 7-Elevens for angry old men. I mean, you go in there, you want to go and get a cup of coffee. What do you want? I suppose you want cream in that coffee. And then, of course, I went in, like a fool. I asked for a double espresso, and they looked at me. They looked at me like I had 10 heads. 10 is a double espresso. In other words, it's one cup. They gave me two individual cups. I said, no, it's one cup, 2 shots. Hello,
I
Well,
have,
you know,
I have, I have to tell you, I was not really familiar with that. I mean, it's not like, is it something like when you go into Canada, you see a Tim Hortons every other, you know, mile?
oh yeah, I'm sorry. Tim Hortons was the experience I had with the double espresso. Yeah, Stewart's was just I had to stop at a Stewart's to pick up a cup of coffee, and it was like all these angry old men were sitting in there, and the people behind the counter were also angry old men, and they just looked at you and they snarled. You know, it's like they would snarl at you. I remember
They weren't those the angry old men. They weren't like muscular, were they?
no, no, no.
I,
They,
I'm
you know,
thinking when you say angry men or angry, in this case, angry old men. When you say an angry man, I think of Pepper Martin. And if you're wondering who Pepper Martin is, he was the guy in Superman 2. Those of you who remember with Christopher Reeve, he went up against General Zod in Superman 2. But the main villain in that movie was the guy who he ran into at the diner as he was coming back from the Fortress of Solitude. And, you know, in the first round, this guy punches out Clark Kent because Clark didn't have his superpowers anymore. And then at the very end of the movie, he comes back to the diner and beats the crap out of that guy. And same thing. Guy hanging out in a diner, angry, yelling at the waitress or the woman behind the bar, calling her food garbage. That kind of stuff.
right.
So anyway,
Yeah. All right. Anyhow, let's roll along here and take a look at the watches and warnings. By the way, welcome tonight to everybody on the chat board. I know we took a long weekend. I did the show alone yesterday. So welcome tonight to the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast. Also to those of you who are watching in the background tonight and not participating in the chat, but if you'd like to, by all means, it's a very inviting place and very welcoming place to be on the chat board. Subscribe to my YouTube channel so you don't miss us because we're here Sunday through Thursday at 7:35 p.m. We're usually off Fridays and Saturdays, but if there's going to be a nor'easter that's going to rolling up the coastline, we'll probably add some shows at the for Friday and Saturday. So just bear that in mind. So if you subscribe and turn the notifications on, you won't miss us. And of course, if you like the show, by all means, please hit the like button. So I got the watches and warnings map. And for those of you who are sick and tired of temperatures in the 80s, at least you can look forward to the fact that the next air mass that's coming down is actually going to be a chilling one. And you can see there's frost warnings and freeze advisories and freeze warnings up for parts of the Dakotas and Wyoming, back to Idaho, and also in northern Minnesota, northern Wisconsin, and the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. I was thinking maybe with this particular air mass that this might be if it sets up right where you get one of those nights either Thursday morning or Friday morning if it's clear with light winds. That might bring the first frost to maybe down as far south as Route 84.
well, I will tell you that on Friday morning? No, Thursday morning of last week, because it was in an area very far from bright city lights, and I rarely ever get any more a chance to see the sky in all of its splendor. So I woke up, so did Renat, at 4:30 in the morning, and we stepped outside to a glorious star-studded sky. This was after the moon had set, but we had brought along our winter coats because it was cold out there. I'm not exactly sure just how cold it was. I guess maybe the ambient air temperature was like 37 or 38 degrees, probably close to the ground, however. It was probably right around freezing. So, and in fact, if I recall correctly, there was a freeze warning in effect for where we were up in Vermont. Now, 2 days later, 3 days later, here we are with temperatures in the 80s, 3 consecutive days here in the lower Hudson Valley with temperatures in the lower 80s. So weather do change. It's going to change later in the week when we get that front through here first thing on Wednesday morning. Behind it, one of those big high pressure fair weather systems from Canada, a cool dry air mass. And once again, we're going to see temperatures drop back to near seasonal levels, and at night probably to chilly levels, cold levels maybe, and then it'll warm right back up again, probably in time for the start of next week.
All right, so I've got the full disc here. Well, it's actually half a disc, at least the part that you see. But if I go all the way down, we can actually see what's going on in South America and down near Antarctica. It looks like a big ocean storm moving eastward in the Southern Ocean, heading to southern areas of Argentina. But we'll focus on us. And one thing that's apparent in this view that we've got some tropical systems around. In the Pacific, we have Octave, which is the one that's furthest to the left, and you can see the rotation there. And closer to the coast of Mexico, we have Hurricane Priscilla, and it's that's actually from the standpoint of its signature on the satellite, it's pretty big. With the clouds extending up into the Baja Peninsula. In fact, they even have tropical storm warnings up for areas along the coast of Mexico and talking about heavy rains coming into the southern portions of the Baja Peninsula. In the Caribbean, we have a little disturbance. You can see a flare up of clouds there, although the Hurricane Center doesn't think much of this as it moves into probably moves into the southwest Gulf. And the area to watch later this week is going to be off the southeast coast because pressures are going to be low there and there's going to be a persistent onshore flow. So all it's going to take is maybe one little disturbance to set off a low developing there, much like we saw a couple of weeks ago. And out in the tropical Atlantic, there's a well-defined tropical wave. In fact, it's definitely gotten better organized today. You can see that it has some curvature. I'm kind of seeing maybe a little bit of a mid-level rotation. We'll see what the Hurricane Center does with the tropical weather outlook, which is going to be out momentarily. And on the radar tonight, still nothing in the east. You get down into southwestern South Carolina and parts of Georgia. You see patchy areas of some rain, as well as in South Florida. And it's a bit more abundant in Kentucky and southern Illinois and southern Indiana into Ohio. In fact, there's some heavy rains in western Kentucky, also in parts of western Tennessee down into Mississippi. And then you've got the frontal boundary with showers pushing through northern portions of Lake Huron, northern Michigan, over Lake Michigan, southern Wisconsin. Not terribly well organized here with this weather front, but it is going to pick up some of this Gulf moisture here. So I'm kind of thinking that with a little luck, first of all, I don't think any rain happens tomorrow. If you're in eastern Pennsylvania and to southern New England and east, there's no rain during the day side tomorrow. It'll probably be during tomorrow night into the very first part of Wednesday morning. Maybe with a little luck, you could wind up with 3/4 of an inch to an inch. But Joe, one of the things that I always like to fall back on is the fact that you have to follow the trends of the pattern. And if you're in a very dry pattern, oftentimes these systems tend to underperform, and I think we've seen that. So I'm just going to keep my fingers crossed that the guidance is right, but I would not at all be shocked if you wind up getting less rain than what's being indicated.
Well, like I said, we'll take anything at this point to get just to moisten the ground. The WPC I see is indicating there's a narrow stripe across northern sections of Connecticut of possibly as much as 1 inch of rain with this system. And this is encompassed by a much broader zone covering much of the Northeast, which indicates a half an inch. So I'll be happy if we get at least a half an inch out of this. But if we get a little bit more, well, let's go for it. Let's hope for the best, because again, every drop in this particular case certainly counts. And it may be, Joe, that once we get through this system, it may be a while before we get another shot at some significant precipitation. In fact, we may have to wait until well into next week to get any kind of significant rain or shower event here.
Oh, and by the way, all the warm temperatures in the 80s the last couple of days have extended all the way up through upstate New York and all the way up into northern New England, including Maine. I mean, it's a bit hard to take when you're at this point in early October to start still talking about 80-degree temperatures up in the great state of Maine. No severe weather is forecast for today, for tonight, into tomorrow morning. There's a small area of marginal risk tomorrow in eastern New Mexico. Otherwise, no other severe weather is indicated, and no severe weather is indicated by the Storm Prediction Center on Wednesday. Now, you got to do a little bit of math with this, with what WPC has, because it counts what's there Wednesday. This is the 7-day forecast, so this takes us through next Monday night. So, I mean, it's showing 2.5 to 3 inches in southern New Jersey and points southward. And it's also showing 1.5 to 2 inches, but you got to cut that in half with what's being indicated for Tuesday night to Wednesday. And I'm also thinking in my mind that WPC might be looking at this and think with respect to the system for the weekend, and maybe they're leaning to the idea that it's not going to come all the way up.
Well, yeah, but Joe, again, 5, 6, 7 days out, a lot of things can change, a lot of things can happen. Well, all we can do is just simply stand back, watch, observe. By the way, wasn't somebody on the chat board some time ago saying that, I think this was back several weeks ago, saying that we've seen our last stretch of temperatures in the 80s? I forgot who said that. But anyway,
Yeah, well, when you say things like that, you got to be careful. Never say never. That's always been my motto because especially if you when you look when you take make absolute statements in the weather world, uh, you got a fairly good chance of winding up being embarrassed.
and I was reminded also this past Saturday, Saturday was October the 4th. It was on October the 4th, 1988, I believe, or 87, that we had an unusually early snowfall. We had temperatures that were just cold enough here in the lower Hudson Valley for snow. And I think, especially from Route 84 on north, tremendous amounts of snow, heavy snow, falling on trees that had not yet really fully dropped their leaves and causing all kinds of problems. Some people were without power, Joe, for upwards to 2 or 3 weeks. An amazingly early, heavy snowfall. And again, that was back in the late 80s. I think it was 1987,
Hmm.
October the 4th. A lot of people, when they think about a really early snowfall, may think back to 2011, where right here in Putnam Valley, we had 14 inches of snow a couple of days before Halloween. That's a pretty darn early snowfall. But to talk about a heavy snowfall that occurs on the 4th of October, I think portions of the like Pittsfield and Great Barrington up in the Berkshires, they had something like 20 or 30 inches of snow on the 4th day of October, and again in 1987. It's incredible.
Yeah.
Just as, and on that same day, October 4th this year, we had temperatures in the low 80s. As Tex Antoine used to say, yes, folks, weather do change.
Yes. Now, when we look at I got the upper air up for the end of the week. I'm using the 12Z GFS run. All of this is going to depend on two things. One is that you have a cutoff low that's forming in the southeast. And you can kind of see that blue area there in South Carolina and Georgia. And then there's a short wave dropping from Lake Winnipeg into the Great Lakes. See that northern little cutoff there with northern Lake Michigan. And the two troughs kind of join forces. And you look at this and you think, okay, there's a surface low. If there's a surface low that develops with this, whoops, hold on just a second. I hit the wrong button. Close that. Um, if there's a surface low that forms with this, it would kind of ride up the coast around the east side of the upper low. And by the way, this could wind up again being a non-tropical system. Uh, in other words, there's going to be fronts associated with it. So we'll see how it develops, but we could still wind up with a very strong non-tropical storm system here out of all of this. Now, that upper low, that trough and that upper low just kind of rotate around each other and then eventually kind of slides off the southeast coast and goes out. Now, I would, if I were thinking that this was going to come barreling up the eastern seaboard, you would want to see that trough go into a negative tilt and kind of lift up into New England, which it's not really doing. There's also a deep trough that's coming into the west that I think is going to have an impact here, and you can see it there, all that blue. That's cold and probably mountain snows in the Rockies with that trough. But there's also an upper high that's building in eastern Canada, so that's going to be part of the equation as well. But the fact that this thing doesn't have the you know it's not being showing that it's lifting up, but rather rotating around and dropping southeastward. kind of favors the idea that I'm talking about. And this is what happened with these other systems that we had in the last couple of weeks, be it Imelda or be it the low that formed off North Carolina, near North Carolina, eastern North Carolina, and went into southeast Virginia and produced a small area of heavy rain and very strong winds. So there's that. The European, on the other hand, and this is this would certainly suggest the North staying separate really from the South. It never really gets involved. It's all about the cutoff that forms off the South Carolina coast, in which case it wouldn't lift up the coast at all. Maybe you'd get rain that would make it as far north as, say, the Delmarva Peninsula, but it'll just get left behind there. At least that was the story on the day runs. If we go back to last night on the European, this made more of a case of something coming up far enough north to cause some problems with rain and wind. So I'm not gonna say that any of these runs has the correct answer, because when we look at the ensembles, which I did, they're all over the place. I mean, they've got lows anywhere from off the south shore of Long Island to off the Florida East Coast. So, take your pick. So this was today's European. Our front's going to come through, and actually, it's going to have a fairly decent line of rain and showers going all the way back to the Tennessee Valley, and maybe even a rumble or two of thunder in there. I wouldn't rule that out. And then once the front goes by, it's going to turn sharply cooler or colder, particularly in northern New England. Joe, look at those thicknesses up in upstate New York and up into Maine.
Yeah.
They're going to go from 80s to. I'm just kind of curious what kind of low temperatures. Let me see if they got any 20s up there. That ought to be interesting to see. Let's look at the digital forecast. So this is the digital forecast for Tuesday. Is another day of 80s going all the way up into northern New England, northern Vermont, New Hampshire. You notice, I don't know what that 59 is. That must be some mountaintop there. Maybe it's Old Forge or something. But middle 70s in upstate New York. And let's look at the mins. So let's go to the mins for let's go Thursday morning. Look at this, 20s and 30s. Through mostly low 30s, but some 20s in the coldest spots. So they're going to go basically from 80 to 20. Same for upstate New York. A lot of 20s up in northeastern New York State. So definitely cold, and low 30s getting pretty far down into the Catskills. As I said, maybe the Thursday morning or Friday morning, if we get some radiational cooling, we could see perhaps some frosts down to Route 84. But this is a sharp change. Thursday night and a Friday morning in upstate New York, northern Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine are going to be 20s and low 30s. Now that's a flip.
I believe that with that spell of unusually cold weather, that many of the leaves will be dropping across much of central and northern New York State, central northern New England. And as I said, at least from what I saw in Vermont, the colors trended more toward brown and orange as opposed to, let's say, reds and yellows and a lot of those very beautiful colors. A lot of the coloration, I guess, primarily because of the dry weather, have been muted, and now we may see a significant leaf drop over the next week or so, in part because of the sudden change between very warm and very cold. So
And,
if you're a leaf peeper, if you're somebody who likes to go up into New England, this upcoming weekend is the holiday weekend. It's the big Columbus Day holiday weekend, and that's the weekend a lot of people do head north to take a look at the beautiful colors. Well, I'll tell you this, there isn't all that much in the way of beautiful colors, at least from what I saw this past week. And unfortunately, with the cold weather coming, now it looks like a lot of those leaves are going to be dropping. So
yep.
this is an off year for the leaf watchers, I think.
Thursday looks to be the coolest day this week, with mostly low 60s for highs, and even a few places not getting out of the 50s, which is interesting enough. And then Friday it kind of nudges up a little bit back to about, say, between, say, low and maybe even a few middle 60s. And then, of course, the weekend really hinges on whatever is going to happen with this coastal low. But here's this was the 0Z. So if we look at the 12Z European, again, this was the run that had a really difficult time lifting something up the East Coast. You could see the onshore flow off the southeast coast of the U.S. By the way, that dry air is going to make it all the way down, to me and beyond. Um, and you're going to get a low that's going to pop up, and then it just sort of just sits there, kind of rotates counterclockwise, kind of spins around counterclockwise, reaching up to about Hatteras, and then suddenly it drops southwestward. Now, if that gradient is as tight as it shows, I mean, it's got a 992. That's a 992 low that's sitting off the North Carolina coastline. I mean, they're going to blow away in eastern North Carolina with this. But the rain doesn't. The rain makes it to southern Delmarva, and that's it. And then it just the low just kind of disappears. So that's the European. And by the way, while that's all going on, I mentioned that deep trough coming into the west, and you can see there's snow up in the northern Rockies and in parts of Washington State moving southward. That's with that deep trough there. So they're going to see some snow certainly in the higher peaks. And then when we look at the GFS today, let me just roll back. Hold on. There we go. We're going to roll back and then go forward. Same idea. Front comes through. There's showers, maybe even a rumble or two of thunder, lasting into Wednesday morning. And then it's decreasing clouds and cooler, and then colder Wednesday night, and particularly Thursday and Thursday night into Friday morning. Your low develops there. It kind of follows the European idea. It goes east, then north, and then turns northwest and then southwest. Sitting near the North Carolina coast. Now, the 18Z does bring rain as far north as New York City by Sunday afternoon, and then the low just sort of starts to weaken. So, I mean, and by the way, on the lower right, you can barely see it, is a hurricane. On the far lower right along 60 degrees west on the edge of the frame, that's the tropical system that's out well to in the eastern Atlantic that winds up being totally uninvolved in all of this. So again, I will just point out that we got a ways to go in how the models settle this all out, but it would not surprise me if this winds up doing what the models are doing today, which is to say, stay more to the south. The icon, which on the earlier run, the 12Z run, brought a low all the way up to Long Island. This is the 12Z run, and you can see it here. It just takes it straight north. Again, it's how it responds to all that troughing that drops into the eastern part of the United States. If the icon is right, we're going to get a really, most of the area is going to wind up with a solid few inches of rain, and also we're going to wind up with strong winds and some coastal flooding with this for beginning, Saturday night and lasting into Columbus Day. I mean, it's still in there on Columbus Day, although the low is beginning to weaken. The 18Z doesn't go out as far. It only goes out to 120 hours. I don't know why they do that. At least match it. So it doesn't really go out far enough. We just can see it far enough so that by Saturday afternoon, the low is well east of North Carolina and hasn't made that double back westward. So you got a couple of days. You got a couple of days. I still think, Joe, that if somebody said put a bet down now, I would say that this probably does not come up all the way up. I might be wrong, but I'm just saying from what I'm seeing today, if somebody said to me, you got to make a forecast right now, I would say that it's more for places like, maybe southern Delmarva, Virginia, and points southward.
Well, the European, by the way, on the 18Z run and the 6Z run only goes out 144 hours as opposed to the primary run, 0 and 12Z. They go out to 360. So I guess during the intermediate runs, they just don't want to, run all the way out.
They don't want to spend the money.
Yeah.
Well, I have the 18Z European, so let's take a look. We'll start with 96 hours. Hold on, I'm going to get I want to get the one with the rain on it. This is that was the ensemble. So let me just go to the 18Z European, And let's take the precipitation map. The European AI, by the way, at least at 12Z, I didn't look at the 18Z, but the 12Z took it all the way up the coast. So that's the European AI. So we'll start with 90 hours. And you can see what's off the southeast coast. And there's your low. Kind of hangs there. Doesn't really move very much at all. It's just deepening. 988. A 988 low southeast of Wilmington at 144 hours. So that would be Sunday afternoon. I mean, look how there's no rain anywhere close. And in fact, I wonder, Joe, if the European, if it's showing something like this, that maybe this does become eventually a tropical system because it's so tight. You know, all the precip is tightly wound around the center. So the European might be saying, "Hey, this thing may very well become a tropical system."
Well, we'll see. As you pointed out, we had a non-tropical system a few weeks ago that did, I wouldn't say damage, but certainly brought a lot of wind and also rain to parts of the Carolina coastline and the Virginia Capes. Again, it was not a tropical system, but it still did the job in terms of bringing significant rain and wind. So this system too will start off non-tropical, but maybe this time around it might evolve into a tropical system with time. We'll see.
Yeah. The latest outlook in the Southwest Gulf, it's 10%. We don't care. The one that's out in the tropical Atlantic, they've raised the probability now to 80% chance of a tropical depression or a tropical storm to form in the next day or so, and a 90% chance that there'll be a tropical storm in the next 7 days. And you can see the track, the expected track in this range here in the red area. Another one that's going to come, possibly go just north of the northern Leeward Islands, because this year it seems like anything that forms out of the Atlantic starts to recurve around 60. We had Aaron that got to 70 west of 70 west before it made a sharp right turn, but they all seem to be wanting to do that. So I don't know why, again, that this one is going to wind up being any different. So on that note, I think I have Briller Jeopardy, I believe.
I believe so.
Okay, so let me see if I can find it. Give me a moment here. And let's see. I don't even know if we're the same subject matter or if we've gone to something else.
And while you're looking for that, I just want to point out some of you out there may sometimes go to check out weather history at Central Park from Rob Friedowitz. I've mentioned him on more than a few occasions, and I checked his webpage over the weekend and was chagrined to find he has had this blog page for several years using TypePad, and it looks like TypePad shut down as of the end of the day on September 30th, and there was no more blog about Central Park weather, and I dropped Rob a note saying, I hope that you'll find a new home soon, and when you do, please let me know, and I will spread the word both on my social media platforms as well as here on the Joe and Joe Weather Show. And he wrote back, sent a message back to me a couple of days ago saying, thanks so much for your message. I really appreciate your kind, encouraging words. I've been heartened by readers who have reached out to me the past few days, and not to worry. I plan to get back on the saddle very soon, and we'll let you know when New York City Weather Archive 2.0 is up and running. And thank you very much again. So as soon as there is a new place for Weather Archive 2.0, New York City Weather Archive 2.0 by Rob Friedowitz, I will let all of you know. But again, his many years site on TypePad no longer exists because TypePad shut down as of the end of the day on September 30th, which was on Tuesday of last week. And so hopefully we'll be able to get those great records back up online concerning Center. He did a far better job in detailing specific weather events over the last 150 some odd years than the folks over at the National Weather Service in Upton. I mean, they didn't specialize in providing that kind of service, but I mean, if you wanted to know what happened on a certain day, a specific day, and there were a number of major events, heavy rainstorms, windstorms, sometimes snowstorms, heat waves. That's you would go to Rob's site to get it, but again, for the moment, not available, but hopefully back online fairly soon.
All right. Okay, so we can start Briller Jeopardy, and we all know, Joe, that Briller Jeopardy is sponsored. So we want to give a little bit of attention to our sponsors tonight. Briller Jeopardy is brought to you by Genuine Mildew New Lemon Lime Flavor LYME Tix Cereal. Fruity Sweetened Vermin. The Tix Cereal by Genuine Mildew. And since we're on the theme for cereals, Generally Moldy brings us Weekies.
The breakfast of chumps.
The breakfast of chumps. I can't read what it says on above Weekies. Something untoasted cooked flakes or something.
Well, wait a minute. Hold on for a second.
Can you see it? I can't.
I have my own set here, and I know I have Weekies. Okay, I have Weekies. Let me look with a magnifying glass. Now, what did you want to find out?
So right on top of Weekies, this says there's something
missing untoasted, half-cooked flakes.
Okay, there you go. So don't forget, folks, start your day off right with Tix cereal and with Weekies. Okay, so here we go. It's October weather in New York City, Joe. What's the highest temperature ever recorded in the month of October?
Oh, October's an interesting month. They have all kinds of extremes. The latest 90-degree temperature, the earliest significant or measurable snowfall. I know that we have hit 90 degrees, and we did it fairly recently, just several years ago. I think the highest temperature was like 93.
You're very close on the number. Okay, so Michael McGuire and Frank R. got it correct. 94 is the highest temperature ever recorded in October, but it was on October 5th, 1941.
Wow.
Okay, that was a long time ago. Next one. What is the lowest temperature ever recorded in the month of October?
Oh, dear. So the question here now is, have we ever gone below freezing in October? I don't think we ever have at Central Park. I'll go for a low of 34.
We actually did go below freezing, and Joe, your favorite person, Tom Contino, along with Michael Azera, got it right. 28, and that was set on October 27th, 1936. So clearly we have to go back quite a ways in time.
And keep in mind, 1936, that came just a few months after the hottest temperature ever recorded at Central Park, 106.
Yep.
July the 9th, 1936. And now here we are just a few months later in October with the lowest October temperature in the upper 20s. Wow.
Yep. The next one is what the coldest daytime maximum.
Well, if the coldest temperature ever in October was 28, you said?
28.
I'm going to say the coldest maximum temperature probably was around 35.
You're a little bit low. John Sachs 77 hit it, and a few of you Harold Olson, Precidopedia getting very close. 38, the coldest daytime maximum, and that was on October 30th, 1925. Now, you mentioned earlier 2011. What is the greatest amount of snow to fall in the month of October in New York City?
I believe it was, 2.2 inches?
Well, the 2 part is right, not the 0.2. but it was 2011. Uh, Michael Azera gets it again. Give Michael Azera a ring because he got two in a row. 2.9. 2.9. Same for Michael McGuire. The bell is for you too. How many Octobers? This is an interesting question. How many October? This is a multiple choice question. Okay. Um, how many Octobers since 1869 had measurable snowfall? In other words, at least a tenth of an inch.
Oh, I don't think too many. I I'll say maybe four.
Yes, that's the answer. Four. Four. 1876, 1925, 1952, 2011. And there
That's
you go.
amazing. It's amazing.
Those, it's
They come like at 40 or 50-year intervals.
right. Well, it's nice. It's nice, at least for the snow lovers, that we're starting to get into the time of year where these become part of the conversation with respect to Roller Jeopardy and then our own conversation with what we do weather-wise. Anything else you'd like to add before we say goodnight? It was a very lively show tonight. I think the anchors were all both in a good mood, so that's always a good thing. And the chat board was lively too.
No, I think that just about it. I know some people on the chat board talking baseball and talking about the Phillies Dodger game that's going on right now. I'm not even sure anymore. I know the Yankees are down 2-0. I don't in the series. I'm not sure where the other series are, but whomever comes out a winner out of this will be playing for the league championship series, and that'll ultimately determine who gets into the World Series. So baseball is winding down. We'll see how this all develops in the days to come.
Okay. And we might as well close out the show with another cereal sponsor, Joe. We have another cereal sponsor. Are you ready?
Yes.
Smellogs brings us Mice Krispies, Stinky Cheese Cereal, the cheesiest cereal ever. And the mice's names are Sniff, Hack, and Pew. So there you go. There you go. These are wacky packages. I saw Ruben Fairchild thought this was something you buy on Amazon. Well, you can. These were trading for those of you who are not old, angry old men like Joe and I. Back when we were kids, these were, like baseball cards. You would buy packages of baseball cards for 10 cents. You got 10 cards in like a 1 inch by 2 inch rectangle of chewing gum, and it was very
Here's
good chewing gum, by the way.
here's one. Here's one I don't think you've used or seen.
Oh, Gadzuka. Do
Gadzuka
they still
gum,
have
right?
Do they still have Bazooka gum, bubble gum? I've never. I don't see it. I don't ever
I
see
don't
it.
see it either. I don't see it. I don't know. I used to. I actually, believe it or not, when I was a very young boy, I collected enough Bazooka Joe comic strips and mailed them to the Bazooka people and got a little tiny pair of binoculars. I was so excited when it came in the mail. But I don't know if they still have that.
No, I don't think
But
I don't think I've seen Bazooka bubble gum in many many years. They used to
yeah,
have the little ones you could buy for like a penny, and you'd go in, go to the candy store. I don't even, well, they don't have candy stores anymore, but you go to the candy store and you just get like, a couple of pieces of
yeah,
gum and you give the guy 2 cents and you were done. Um,
that's absolutely true.
yep. It is. We don't make this crap up here on the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast. We speak from experience. And on that note, we will be back here tomorrow night at 7:35 p.m. Eastern Time. Don't forget, if you'd like to support the show, it keeps the podcast commercial free. I mean, we went 50 minutes with no commercial break. So if you do your Amazon shopping, use our Amazon referral link that's on the description of this podcast on YouTube. Oftentimes it's at the top of the chat board. Tonight we have the Tempest Weather Station link. If you want to get a weather station, I have one. It's great. It's easy. You can monitor it on your mobile device. And use the coupon code, Joe. What is the coupon code?
Autumn 2025, Joe.
And
And
if you use it, you will get.
you'll get 10% off. And Mrs. Rayo on the chat board coming in with the notation, yes, bazooka gum still exists. I've not seen it and you've not seen it, but I guess if you search real hard, I guess you'll be able to find somebody who's selling bazooka bubble gum.
Gotcha. Okay, folks, we'll see you tomorrow. And also, don't forget, I do put up a Weather in a Minute video every day. It's actually a 3-minute video, but I still call it Weather in a Minute. And that usually goes up in the morning. And also a link on the community page on YouTube. I put links up to my website so you can read and look at some maps and see what my thoughts are in the morning so that you could all be sort of prepped up for the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast. So we'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Bye bye.